We've all been there, right? You're facing a subject that is so dense, it feels like you're learning a whole new language from scratch. Well, for a lot of people, that's veterinary terminology. But here's an idea. What if the problem isn't the words themselves, but the way we're taught to learn them? Today, we're going to see how fixing the very foundation of our learning method can make all the difference. You know that feeling just staring at these endless lists of prefixes and roots and suffixes? It feels less like you're actually learning a language and more like you're trying to just brute force memorize an entire dictionary. It's honestly completely overwhelming. But what if the issue isn't you? What if it's not the words at all? What if the real problem is the blueprint, the very structure we're given to learn them in the first place? That's what we're going to explore today. We're going to see how a few simple, smart tweaks to the way we're taught can change absolutely everything. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at that flawed learning blueprint we all get. Then we're going to rebuild it piece by piece, starting with the most basic building block. After that, we'll see how to prioritize the really important parts, sharpen up our word analysis, and finally put it all together into a brand new, much smarter study strategy. Okay, let's dive into our first big fix. You know, every weak foundation has a critical flaw. And in terminology, that flaw is how we learn the core unit, the absolute heart of every single medical term. This quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? When the basic parts of a word are taught in totally separate sections, it forces your brain to do all this extra work just to connect the dots. It's super inefficient, and honestly, it's just frustrating. So here's what that disconnected path looks like. In one chapter, you learn the root. Then, I don't know, pages later, you learn about a combining vowel. And then, finally, you're taught the combining form that glues them together. They're three parts of the same exact idea, but they're treated like totally separate items on a to-do list. It makes no sense. And here's the solution. Let's stop treating them as separate parts. Instead, we learn them as one single solid thing, the core unit. Think about it like this. You wouldn't try to build the wheels of a car separately from the axle, right? You build the whole assembly. This is the engine of the word. Let's see how this works with a real word, like panleukopenia. Instead of seeing Luke and the little vowel O as two things to remember, we just see leuko as one solid, ready-to-use building block that means white. It's just simpler. And as you can see here, this logic works no matter what language you're coming from. It's a powerful tool, universally. All right, so we fixed our core building block. Now let's tackle the next big problem, prioritization. Not all parts of a word are created equal, and that is especially true for prefixes. It's time we separate what's clinically critical from what's just common. And this is a trap that so many textbooks fall into. They're trying so hard to be neat and organized, grouping prefixes by number or position, that they accidentally bury the most important stuff. A neat list is not always a smart list. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. We get this generic bucket of common prefixes. You have absolutely vital clinical terms like hypo for elevated or hypo for depressed, just tossed in with simple counting words like by and try. Their real importance gets completely lost in the noise. So the solution is actually really simple, but it's so powerful. Create a priority category. We just pull those clinically significant prefixes out of the generic list and give them their own special home. This instantly signals to your brain, hey, pay attention. These are the ones you're going to use in diagnoses every single day. Okay, our third and final fix. It's a subtle one, but I promise you it's a total game changer. It's all about refining the way we analyze words step by step to stop a very common error from tripping us up. This is the classic three-step method you find in pretty much every textbook. A, break the word down. B, define the parts, starting from the end. C, put the meanings together. Seems logical, right? But there's a hidden trap in step B that gets almost everyone. And here is the simple, powerful fix. We just insert one new, absolutely crucial step right after we dissect the word. Isolate the pure root. That just means you have to mentally strip away that connecting vowel before you try to define anything. This tiny little step makes the entire process basically foolproof. So why is this one tiny step such a big deal? Well, think of it this way. The combining form, leuko, is a structural piece. It's a connector. But the actual meaning, the concept of white, that lives in the pure root, leuk. Confusing the structure with the meaning is where all the mistakes happen. This extra step forces you to keep them separate. All right, let's put all three of these fixes together now. We've taken apart that old clunky method, and now we can build your new, much more effective study strategy, one that you can literally start using today. So here are the 3 keys to your new blueprint. 1. Unify the core. Treat those basic building blocks as one single concept. 2. Prioritize what's clinical. Focus your energy where it's going to matter the most. And 3. Always isolate the pure root. That's going to make sure your definitions are always spot on. See, when you focus on the structure, the priority, and the process, you stop just memorizing words and you start actually learning a system for decoding language itself. So the question I'm going to leave you with is this. Now that you know how to fix the foundation, what else are you going to build?